The Venezuela Nuestra campaign command denounces threats against opposition majors who announced their support for the candidacy of President Nicolás Maduro. In Palestine, Israeli occupation troops carried out several raids in the West Bank. Authorities reported at least 16 people detained and many others injured. And in Russia, President Vladimir Putin met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi with the framework of the 22nd Russia-India Summit. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The head of the American Nuestra campaign command, Jorge Rodriguez, denounced on Tuesday that the 4 independent majors who expressed their support for the candidacy of President Nicolás Maduro are being threatened by sectors of the opposition and have been accused of traitors, and announced that the National Assembly's Domestic Policy Commission will launch an in-depth investigation on these events. teleSUR correspondent Yunus Suner with the details.
Jorge Rodriguez, General Coordinator of our Venezuela campaign for supporting President Nicolás Maduro, held a press conference on Tuesday. He announced that the National Assembly, whose chairman he also is, whose president he also is, will start an investigation with its Domestic Politics Commission. The topic of the investigation are threats against oppositional mayors who had yesterday declared their support for actual president and candidate Nicolás Maduro in the coming elections on 28th of July. Jorge Rodriguez in detail presented how one of them, Pedro Antonio Abreu of the Rojas municipality in the state of Barinas, was threatened personally by phone calls as well as other phone calls who threatened his ill mother. That mayor was also threatened with graffiti that was placed on his wall calling him a traitor. Rodriguez said this incident will be investigated by the National Assembly and called also the Public Ministry to start a profound investigation. He also called upon international media organizations such as CNN, whom he called so-called defenders of human rights, to report on this kind of incidents. And he added that he asked the Carter Center, one U.S. organization that will be here present during the elections, to open its eyes and to acknowledge and to remember these kinds of incidents, as well as the UN panel that will be present here in the coming days until the elections. Rodriguez emphasized that these kinds of threats and these kinds of acts constitute acts of terrorism that serve the purpose on the oppositional side to keep other mayors who are fed up with the violence and with destabilization efforts and who want to have peace and who thus tend to support President Maduro as well. Such mayors are being kept in line by these threats, said Rodriguez, who said, "We know very well who is behind these acts of violence, but we still want a profound investigation so that it becomes clear to everyone." Rodriguez also emphasized that basically these terror acts and this recurrence to violence happens because the oppositional forces, the extreme right, knows it has not the right and it has not the majority. Thus, it recurs to such acts of violence and threats using destabilizing Venezuela. But he said that he is confident that more and more mayors and other forces of the opposition will, as the 4 yesterday, tend to support President Maduro in an attempt to achieve peace and stability and harmony within the country in the future as well.
The Attorney General of Venezuela confirmed that he is in contact with his Colombian counterpart to investigate the allegations of violent acts against the authorities and the Venezuelan people during the electoral period, which were denounced by a paramilitary group. teleSUR correspondent Lionel Retamal brings us the details.
The Attorney General of Venezuela gave details of the progress of the investigation into the accusation of a paramilitary group of generating violence in Venezuela and making an attempt against the President of the Republic, at the request of sectors of the Venezuelan extreme right.
Al respecto, el Ministerio Público venezolano
In this regard, the Venezuelan Public Prosecutor's Office requests your valuable collaboration to allow the participation of this institution in the investigation that may be carried out in Colombian territory, as well as the interviewing of alleged witnesses of the events that occurred.
The prosecutor assured that they are already in contact with informants in Colombia who are providing information to the investigation in order to know the names of those involved as soon as possible.
hemos tenido contactos
We have had contacts that I cannot reveal at this moment in Colombia, where they have been providing us with information related to this investigation that may lead us to know for certain in the coming hours the name of these people who sought this terrorist group, known as the paramilitary group, Autodefensas Conquistadoras de la Sierra.
The information provoked many reactions due to the unusual nature of the denunciation. Generally, it's the Venezuelan state that is warning of the intentions of these paramilitary groups, together with violent sectors of the right wing.
It is a Colombian criminal group that is evidently seeking with this is to be given space for a political proceeding that does not correspond to it because it is a paramilitary group, and what corresponds to it is the acceptance of justice. Anyway, it is still a very important news and a first-hand one, because it is a criminal who is saying, other Venezuelan criminals contacted us to ask us to assassinate a president.
Venezuela has been dealing with coup attempts for years. Recently, the former paramilitary chief of the United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia, Salvatore Mancuso, gave details of a plan to assassinate President Hugo Chavez.
The operation was set to assassinate President Hugo Chavez with an elite group during a dinner with bankers at La Casona, the presidential residence. Other commandos would assault the Miraflores Palace.
Other attempts have been made from Colombia, such as Operation Gideon in 2020 and White Bracelet in January 2024, which aimed to assassinate President Maduro. All these plans have been aborted, but the danger is always latent.
Then, there is a sector of the opposition that is betting on generating chaos and war in Venezuela, ending the peace of Venezuela, contrary to the interests of the Venezuelan people and our America, which is to defend peace and stability in Venezuela.
We are 19 days away from the elections in Venezuela, scheduled for July 28. Monitoring is permanent to avoid scenarios of violence in these crucial days.
Narendra Modi, teleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela.
Haitian police announced on Monday they will soon launch operations against the powerful criminal group terrorizing the country. In this regard, newly appointed Chief Renaud Mille, along with Godfrey Otinje, commander of the Kenyan contingent sent to assist, assured that quickly the people will wake up and see that the police have arrested the bandits. In addition, Renaud Mille avoided to reveal how they will proceed due to the strategic reasons. The situation deteriorated sharply at the end of February when armed groups launched coordinated attacks in Port-au-Prince, claiming they wanted to overthrow former Prime Minister Ariel Henry.
We have a job
Nous avons un travail
which we have committed to do,
que nous engageons pour nous faire.
and we must do it to the best of our ability.
Et nous devons faire pour capacité, nous, faire moyen de capacité, de meilleur, nous,
And strive for success.
pour nous arriver à travailler pour succès.
The job is to ensure
Job, non, c'est assurer
there's a restoration of peace
restauration, la paix.
throughout Haiti.
We were in a period of assessment and planning to address this issue. The goal was to neutralize the bandits and put them out of business.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. Extreme cold in Argentina has caused several rivers in the province of Santa Cruz to freeze over, threatening livestock farming in the region. In this context, the National Meteorological Service issued a red alert for the mountainous area of Santa Cruz after temperatures fell to minus 25 degrees Celsius. For its part, the Argentine Rural Confederation said that snowstorms since June 28th have made it difficult for hundreds of farmers to feed and care for more than 1 million sheep and overall some 50,000 cattle. Precisely due to the storms, some fields remain inaccessible, with farmers already confirming the death of animals as a result. In the United States, the arrival of Tropical Storm Beryl has left at least 8 people dead in the state of Texas and Louisiana. After making landfall in the southeast Texas on Sunday, Beryl was downgraded from a hurricane to a tropical storm early Monday morning, according to reports from the National Weather Service. In this sense, officials said 7 people had died in Texas, Harris, and Montgomery counties, while 1 more fatality was confirmed in the neighboring state of Louisiana. In this context, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick reported that more than 2.7 million people were affected by power outages as a result of the storm that also triggered flood and tornado watches. As Beryl moves towards the Midwest on Tuesday, it threatens to elicit more flooding and tornadoes along its path.
Say that I'm seeing more of this kind of damaging weather than I've ever seen before. I mean, this is just the beginning of July, and for us to have a storm of this magnitude is very...
In Palestine, at least 16 people were detained and several injured in raids by the Israeli army in the occupied West Bank. Meanwhile, the occupation forces stormed with a large contingent of military vehicles and bulldozers the city of Tulkarem and the camp of Nur Shams, where they destroyed infrastructure, surrounded hospitals, and arrested media workers. Moreover, in the camp of Askar, 3 children and a young man received head wounds from bullets fired by the Israeli soldiers. At the same time, 16 people were arrested during raids in the cities of Ramallah, Kalkija, Hebron, Nablus, Bethlehem, and Jericho. In this way, at least 9,600 Palestinians have been arrested by Israeli soldiers since October 7th. In Palestine, Israeli shelling in Gaza killed at least 19 people and injured dozens on the 277th day since the start of the occupation regime's genocidal war. Medical sources reported that 7 people were killed after an Israeli attack on a house in the Nusayrat refugee camp, while another 6 people were killed in a shelling on a house in the north of Gaza City. There, rescue teams managed to pull a baby alive from under the rubble. More deaths were reported in other areas of the capital of Gaza City and in the southern city of Rafah. Since last October 7th, Israel has killed 38,193 Palestinians. However, experts say the figure could exceed 186,000. On Monday, Yemeni and Iraqi resistance groups launched a new joint military operation targeting the Israeli port of Eilat. In this regard, Yemeni armed forces indicated that the operation used multiple drones to attack a major Israeli target in Eilat, adding that the objective was successfully achieved. The statement also said that this action was carried out in support of the oppressed Palestinian people, their fighters, and in response to the massacres committed by the Israeli regime in the Gaza Strip. In early May, Yemen announced the 4th phase of its operations in support of Gaza and assured that it would attack all ships bound for Israeli ports. In Iraq, thousands of Shiite Muslims marched towards the holy shrine of Imam Hussein as they mark the start of the Muslim month of Muharram in the city of Karbala. This way, pilgrims at Karbala arrived from Baghdad, Basra, and many other Iraqi provinces. The event also attracts pilgrims from countries with Shiite populations, such as Iran, Lebanon, Kuwait, Pakistan, and Bahrain. Muharram is among the holiest months for Shiite Muslims and marks the martyrdom of the Prophet Muhammad's grandson, Imam Hussein, and his companions in the Battle of Karbala in the 7th century. In this context, volunteers set up camps along the route of the Imam Hussein shrine to provide free food and refreshments to visitors.
We serve the visitors of Imam Hussein Shrine during the month of Muharram from the 1st day to the 10th day, 10 days only. Thank God, security is good, services are excellent, and service departments are working properly. We hope that no one will interfere in the work of the volunteers and the processions currently serving in Karbala because they are at the service of the visitors of Imam Hussein.
We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In France, the newly elected lawmakers from different left-wing parties arrived at the National Assembly. In the European country, discussions have begun in order to form a government majority after an election result that divided the legislature. In this context, dozens of activists and civilians turned up at the National Assembly, heartened by the electoral victory of the New Popular Front. The left-wing coalition will have over 190 seats in the future legislature. According to several leaders, left-wing parties continue to advocate for a government formed by the New Popular Front, promising to put forward the name of a prime minister and a team by the end of this week. On Tuesday, Russian President Vladimir Putin met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi as part of the 22nd bilateral summit to strengthen relations between the two countries. In this sense, during the official Russian-Indian talks, the parties discussed not only bilateral cooperation but also the regional and global situation. In the meantime, the Russian leader stressed that relations with India have a special privileged character of friendship and strategic partnership, as also the Russian leader valued the Indians' attempts to find ways to resolve the Ukrainian crisis by peaceful means. On the other hand, Narendra Modi reiterated his nation's commitment to find a way to peace through dialogue.
There is a very long-standing friendship between our countries, good relations that have developed over decades. Among other things, you are trying to find ways to resolve the Ukrainian crisis, above all by peaceful means.
Excellency, as a friend, I have always said that for the brighter future of our next generation, peace is of utmost importance. I also know that solutions are not possible on the battlefield. Solutions and peace talks can't succeed amid bombs, guns, and bullets, and we need to find a way to peace through dialogue.
In Russia, the government denied Ukraine's claims of an alleged attack on a children's hospital in Kyiv and assured that their armed forces only strike infrastructure and military targets related to the Ukrainian army. In this regard, the spokesman for the Kremlin, Dmitry Peskov, assured that the hospital was struck by a falling Ukrainian air defense missile and announced that such claims were part of Kyiv's provocations ahead of the upcoming NATO meetings. Peskov stressed that Russian strikes are carried out only against critical infrastructure and military targets. In this context, the United Nations High Commissioner's Office for Human Rights in Ukraine demanded an investigation on the attack. The Chinese government denounced the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, for slandering, attacking, and holding China responsible of orders to fuel tensions in the Asia-Pacific region. Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian said that China advocates for world peace and contributes to global development and international order. The spokesman added that the country maintains an objective and fair position on international and regional conflicts, such as the Ukrainian crisis. Furthermore, Lin Jian urged NATO to form a fair perception of China, stop creating enemies, and to instead take concrete actions for the benefit of world stability and development. The United Nations warned that the Democratic Republic of the Congo is facing one of the most serious and complex humanitarian crises in recent years. In this sense, United Nations Special Representative for the African country, Bintou Keita, described as worrying the escalation of violence in the territory and its consequences for civilians, especially given the expansion of the M23 insurgents in the provinces of North and South Kivu. Keita denounced at least 15 bombings carried out during the last 3 months, resulting in the death of almost 30 people.
The security situation in eastern DRC has continued to deteriorate, reaching alarming levels of violence and civilian displacement. I am extremely concerned about the rapid expansion of the movement du 23 Mars M23 in North Kivu and the spillover in South Kivu, despite numerous operations conducted by the FRDC, regularly supported by MONUSCO and SAMI DRC.
In this same context, the representative warned that due to the heavy fighting, the arrival of humanitarian aid to regions of the African country is being impeded.
The DRC today counts 7.3 million displaced people, including 6.9 million in the eastern provinces alone. International humanitarian law violations are impeding humanitarian aid delivery. The growing proximity of the front lines and the presence of weapons, including heavy artillery, within and around displacement camps and spontaneous sites significantly compromise the security of the displaced and resident population.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.